The man who stopped time for everyone but himself. No one noticed the moment time stopped. That was the strange part. No thunder, no warning, no bright flash in the sky. 1 second, the city was breathing, moving, blinking. The next second, it wasn't. Cars froze halfway through intersections. A leaf hung in the air like it had forgotten how to fall. A woman's coffee hovered above the pavement, mid-spill, perfectly suspended. Everyone stood perfectly still. Everyone except Elias. At first, he thought he had gone blind. The silence was absolute, not quiet, empty. No wind, no hum of electricity, no distant sirens or birds. Elias waved a hand in front of his face and felt the air resist him, thick like jelly. His heart slammed against his ribs. "Hello?" he said. The word echoed strangely, stretched and warped, like it had nowhere to go. Elias stepped forward. His foot landed. The ground was solid. The world hadn't disappeared. It had just paused. He walked up to a man frozen mid-stride, phone pressed to his ear, mouth open in the middle of a word that would never finish. Elias snapped his fingers in front of the man's eyes. Nothing. He touched the man's shoulder. Cold. Not dead, just halted. Elias backed away, panic bubbling up his throat. This wasn't a dream. He pinched himself until his skin burned. Still here. Time had stopped. And somehow, impossibly, it hadn't stopped for him. At first, he did what anyone would do. He screamed. He ran through the streets, knocking on frozen doors, shouting names he didn't expect anyone to answer. He laughed hysterically. He cried. He sat on the curb for what felt like hours, trying to slow his breathing in a world where nothing else moved. Eventually, the shock faded, replaced by a dangerous thought. If time is stopped, then nothing I do has consequences. He tested it carefully. He moved a cup from a cafe table. It scraped loudly across stone, the sound echoing unnaturally. He placed it back exactly where it had been. Nothing broke. Nothing resumed. Time stayed frozen. Days passed. Or maybe they didn't. Elias slept when he felt tired, ate food that never spoiled, drank water that never ran out. Electricity still worked, as if frozen mid-flow. He lived inside a paused machine. He explored places he'd never been brave enough to enter before. Mansions, offices, museums. He stood alone in rooms meant for crowds and whispered just to hear proof that sound still existed. At first, he told himself he was just borrowing moments, but moments stretched. Weeks. Months. Loneliness crept in quietly. There was no one to surprise him, no one to disappoint him, no one to witness anything he did. Even guilt felt pointless when no one could react. He started talking to frozen people. He told them stories, confessions, jokes. "You won't remember this," he'd say. "But I will." That became the problem. He remembered everything. One day, while wandering through a library, Elias found a notebook lying open on a desk. Unlike everything else, its pages were blank. He frowned and flipped through it. Every page empty. He grabbed a pen from a nearby cup and wrote his name. The ink appeared instantly. Wet, fresh. When he closed the notebook and opened it again, the name was still there. Something that could change. His chest tightened. That night, he wrote for hours. He wrote about the frozen world, about fear, about the way loneliness didn't scream, it whispered. He wrote apologies to people who would never hear them. He wrote about the things he would do differently if time ever started again. When he finished, his hands were shaking. The notebook was proof that the world hadn't completely locked itself away from him. Or maybe it was proof that he hadn't. Years passed. Elias aged. He grew a beard. Lines formed on his face. He counted birthdays by memory alone. There were no calendars that changed, no clocks that ticked forward. The notebook filled with writing. And then, one day, on a page he did not remember writing, he found a sentence that made his blood run cold. "Time will move again when you are ready to let it." Elias stared at the words. He didn't recognize the handwriting. It was his, but older, sharper, more tired. He flipped through the notebook frantically. More sentences appeared as he turned the pages. You asked for this. You wanted the world to stop hurting. You thought if everything paused, you could finally catch up. Memories flooded back. The hospital room, the beeping machines. The moment he had begged, really begged for just one break from life, from loss, from constant motion. He had whispered, I just want everything to stop. And somehow, impossibly, it had listened. Elias sank to the floor. He hadn't been chosen. He had asked. The final page of the notebook was blank except for one question. Are you ready to move forward, even if it means losing this? Elias looked around the frozen library, the motionless world that had become his shelter, his prison, his proof that pain could be paused. If time restarted, he would age again alongside everyone else. He would feel regret in real time. He would lose people again. But he would also live again. He picked up the pen. His hand hovered. I'm tired, he said softly, to no one and everyone. I don't want control anymore. He wrote one word. Yes. The moment the pen left the page, sound rushed back like a tidal wave. Air moved. Pages fluttered. Somewhere, a phone rang. Elias gasped as time slammed into him, heavy and unstoppable. People blinked. Conversations resumed mid-sentence. A librarian frowned at him from across the room. Sir, she said, are you okay? Elias laughed, then cried, then nodded. Yeah, he said, voice shaking. I think I finally am. Outside, a leaf finished falling.